I really need to talk to you guys about something super important, and it affects everybody. And that is about finding connection. Now, a lot of people have no problem making friends, feel really confident, they've got their core group. Every time they hang out with their friends, it's great. Their relationships are super secure. But there are a lot of people out there who don't have that. They feel isolated, they try to make friends, or they have friends, but they still feel lonely. And I want to look at why people feel lonely. It's something that I had experienced for so long until I took NLP. NLP really showed me why I was creating loneliness. It's not necessarily that you create the loneliness, but you create the separation for very good reasons. And so when we're striving for connection and we don't get it, then what do we see? Often we'll become depressed, we'll become isolated. We go, I don't need you, right? We'll look at the meta responses. Well, then I don't need you. I'm going to have some animals, I'm going to be isolated in my room, and I'm going to go play video games and so forth. Everyone strives for connection, you guys. Everyone does, and everyone deserves love and hugs and safety and security. But when we don't get that as an adult, we have to look at, well, why are we not creating that for ourselves? And I want to backtrack a little bit of why am I saying why do we not create that for ourselves, is because we do have an active role in it. Then all we see is that, well, we're striving, we're going out to maybe walks with people, meeting people and so forth, but then still we're feeling lonely. And so we'll drink and we'll stay isolated. And so we create this spiral. We create this spiral of loneliness because we reach out, but we may not reach out in the right ways. We may not reach out fully. We might say, well, I'm getting out there. I'm striving for a connection. I'm creating it, but no one's receiving. Well, we have to figure out why we're creating that, what we're really telling the world. And NLP helps dive into how we're creating that experience, why we're still lonely after all these years, because everyone deserves that hug. I've learned so much about just how easily they love and how easily they give, but how easily they can be hurt. And so if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling that you want more friends and more in life, more meaning and more happiness, which you deserve to have in every moment, that we need to look in our past. What is going on? What happened in our lives where we thought that striving for connection was the absolute wrong thing to do? Now, maybe you lived in a family where there are a lot of kids, parents were overwhelmed, and maybe they just didn't have enough love to give. And so the need of the child was greater than the gifts of the parents, if you will. And so then the child gets hurt. And then what happens when a child gets hurt? You can make a decision. Go, well, I'm going to keep reaching out, which is a natural process for a connection with someone, is I'm going to stand on the ground and I'm going to reach out towards someone with a smile, with a conversation, etc., or a hug. But when we don't get that back as a child, because NLP always goes back to what's the trauma of the child. The current life experience that you're having is just a replay. That's all it is. Because what you survive, you recreate. That is number one lesson today, is what you survive, you recreate. So if you don't like what your experience is now, you got to go back into the past and fix it. So when a child doesn't get what they need, or he or she needs, there's a choice. And then that choice is, well, I'm going to keep reaching out, and I'm going to be a total giver. I'm going to give. I'm going to somehow manipulate or offer so much such that I am irresistible. Okay? So that's one kind of wounding. There's one kind of wounding as well where we go, well, I'm going to decide maybe that there's something wrong with me, and then I'm going to isolate because, gosh darn, I don't need anybody. Now that could be the quiet kind of I don't need anybody and they retreat. And or they could get really angry, because anger is, as they say, the big brother to the sadness. You have action. That's the benefit of anger, is you're creating movement in your body rather than apathy. So we can be really angry, but then we go, I'm sure maybe you've met an angry person or two and you go, what is their problem? Right? Just chill. Just relax, man. You're fine. Well, no, maybe on the surface they seem fine, but they're angry inside because they're covering that hurt inside, because they didn't get what they needed growing up. And it's so hard because parents, sometimes we don't like to admit, but they are doing the best they can. They are always doing the best, but maybe it's not good enough, which is really unfortunate, but that's just how the world is. But we can go, as an adult, go back into the past and kind of make new associations with those last experiences, so such that we're operating on new resources and new connections and so forth. So this is the good news, you guys. But then what we do is we find the root cause of what keeps you isolated or sad or lonely. And we go, well, what are you telling yourself? What do you believe about yourself? Because it's what we believe about ourselves that perpetuate what we give to the world. So look at yourself and go, am I hyper responding to someone wanting to connect with me? Or is no one connecting with me, that no one sees me in the room? When I walk in, I feel like I should just fade into the wallpaper. And then you go, well, no one likes me. I remember actually experiencing that myself in my late 20s, where I'm trying to figure it all out, right? You have that self-reflection, you're outside of the parents' house, and you're experiencing these things. You go, why am I not, I don't know, the life of the party? Why are not people coming up to me? And so I had to turn the mirror back in on me rather than getting mad at the world. First we blame the world, okay? And we go, well, the world's not responding. They suck. They suck. They're not doing what I need them to do. But we go, all right, well, what is the world reflecting back to me? And what are my assumptions? What am I seeing? And so then I look back at myself and I go, and I know people who are isolated, but they want connection. We need it. It feeds our souls. It feeds our souls. We need that for ourselves. But we also need to be able to let the connection in. There might be a lot of people who are already striving to connect with you, but for some reason, the second you see it, nope, they're not wearing the right coat. Their smile's a little weird, right? We start to have little judgments. No, they said something a little bit wrong at dinner, and no, they're kind of lame. And we just kick it off. Thing is, guys, no one's perfect, but relationships can grow, they can develop, we can share. But if there's a core good person there and you have enough in common, then why not be friends with that person? So if you find yourself judging others to the nth degree, well, maybe look at why. What are you protecting? Why are you perhaps trying to keep, and there are these tons of illusions of, well, I'm better than them, they're not as good as me, and so forth. So what are the judgments that you have on other people, and why do you have them? Where did they come from? Did maybe someone tell you that, and often it's a parent or an authority figure, and this is how this goes. Because parents came before us, and we're growing up in that environment, then we listen to them, right? Because they're ruling the roost. They have the rules and so forth, and we want to get along. And so what we do is we acquiesce, or we go, well, if they say that, then, they're here, they've survived. I'm going to listen to them. And so we adapt, of course, most of their rules, if not all, and we play along because, I'm surviving here and they're telling me this. And when I do it, I get rewarded and so forth and so on. Well, everyone is based on a reward system, right? So if we survive something, we go, yay, I survived. And then we do it again. We file it back in our long-term memory bank and we pull it out whenever is needed. Okay. So when our parents say those sorts of people are not okay, those sorts of people, right? And they cast judgments. When we judge, what does that do? That isolates. When we don't hang out with other people, well, we isolate. If we, what else? When we're angry at people, whenever we are, well, you fill in the blanks. Tell me, how do you isolate? How are you not getting connection? This is a dialogue here. But when we are finding that we are not getting what we want, we have to self-reflect. And we go, where did it come from? Now, maybe you go, well, I've always had it. Well, maybe it's something that's in your subconscious that automatically fires. That was from long ago and far away, from maybe when you were one. Maybe, which I've had with clients, is maybe you are finding that you absorbed the feelings of your mother in the womb, because babies don't identify themselves as separate until about 2 years old. So they're their mother is them, and feelings are not just a chemical reaction in the body. It's a tangible quality that reverberates and echoes out like little radio frequencies. So sometimes we absorb the feelings and energies of our mothers, and I've had that with clients where we go back in time and I go, okay, where did that feeling come from? Put little post-it notes on their past, and then let's see where it came from. So sometimes it can come from our mother. And so here we are, currently isolating, maybe taking drugs, alcohol to numb the pain, to occupy our time, etc., etc. And so my husband and I are doing a dry January, which I recommend to everybody, whether you drink maybe a little too much for December or the whole year, but it's a good reset. And this is why it's a good reset for what I'm talking about. It's because when you don't fill your world with stuff that doesn't really feed your soul, that's just filling time, like going on social media or whatever it is, that's just the time filler, the time suck, the binge watching and so forth. That's not really getting you to your purpose in life and life goals and so forth. Or drinking and blotting out and passing out. When you take those things away, and I did this first time many years ago of just taking things away, my heart rate came up. I'm like, well, if I don't have TV, oh my God. If I don't have radio, okay, great. Well, I have TV. If I don't have TV, what do I do? And it felt like there was this vacuum. But then here's the thing is, when the vacuum was my fear, and then when there is that vacuum, just sit with that for a moment. And then your brain will go, well, there's nothing to do here. Now what am I going to listen to? How am I going to fill it? What are the fears? What are the things I don't want to deal with? But then when you start to deal with them and really self-reflect and then create action, a game plan, rather than being scared and frightened and in the flight mode or the freeze mode, the reptilian brain does all of that just to keep us alive. When we finally sit in that silence, and not active meditation, but in that stillness, it is so expansive. It is so beautiful. And I've experienced it many times. I'm like getting choked up. when you've experienced that for the first time and you know you're going to survive and you're going to be okay, and you go, wow, I'm okay. I'm still here. And now, wow. And then we, down the road a little bit, as you start to work on this, go, I have the right to be here. Like, I'm talking about serious challenges when you look at that mirror and you face that vastness, that stillness. And you tackle the, well, do I deserve to be here? Am I lovable? Do I have warts on my nose? No. Am I a loving person? Do I have something to offer? Now, when we start to face those things, start trying to create the connection, right? Be the person you want to see in the world or meet in the world. Okay, well, all right. How do you connect with people? How do you build rapport? How do you have successful conversations such that you don't blow the person out and go, me, 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 me. Narcissists are really good at that. They go, and I met this one guy who he thought it was really funny, and initially it is, but then he'd go, wow, he is so narcissistic. He goes, oh, so you're talking about you right now. Okay, we're going to turn it back to me. He actually said this in a conversation. We go, wow, good for you, right? Part of why narcissists do that is because they can never be wrong. They were deeply wounded before 6 months old. And if they're wrong or they have to be challenged in any way by other people's conversations, then they negate it. And it's me, 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 I. But anyway, how do you build rapport with other people? In connecting and trusting that it will be okay, that you will find the right people for you who are supportive. Are you in toxic relationships is now the new subject. So narcissists, borderline personality disorders are all about them moving the goalposts, turning it on them. So if you're a giving person, had a narcissistic parent, we're always chasing the whole day with trying to make it okay and make the parent happy, then you're probably used to the goalpost constantly being moved. Such you're probably a people pleaser. I'm kind of one of those people. But I've learned to find a lot more balance where I go, well, that is you, this is me. I'm an adult and I now have my own family to take care of. Wow, I realize that this is not an equal partnership. This is not an equal relationship where you're getting what you need and I get what I need. So, in creating and establishing these goals for 2023, which you have every right to do, have friends and community and soul-filling life, which can start right now, is know that you are worth it. Know that you deserve it with every fiber of your being, and the universe is already saying yes, even if you might not believe it now. That when you are finally going, maybe I'll branch out, maybe I can be accepted, maybe I can find non-toxic people. There is a whole host of toxicity out there because there's deep wounding. If no one was wounded, I think we'd all be best friends. Well, maybe not best friends. But we would respect and like each other. We would care for each other. So when you have those deep woundings, which a lot of people have, we can fix them, but we have to know where the root cause is. It's either in childhood. It's either absorbed from our mother or subconsciously to stay alive and okay in the world. But now we can, as an adult, make new associations and figure out the structure, what we're telling ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, and when we can then find peace within ourselves, when we can still get to that new point of, I deserve it, I'm okay, my heart is whole, and I am ultimately connected, and I don't need those toxic relationships anymore, because I don't need to please anybody else but myself. Still be a nice person, still be a loving person. But then when we find peace within ourselves, we find that light And then when it turns around, when you're chasing everybody else's light and it's not working, then that light brightens. Then it becomes attractive because everyone else has a little wounding too. And they go, who is that person? I want to meet that person. And then when you can open your heart and trust that you will have a safe place to go to, and you can have a good, positive, open, wonderful relationship with someone, whether it's intimate or just a friend or many friends, and you're more actively engaging, going, and then you can really find that the universe was already presenting you with those people, but you just didn't see it. You couldn't accept it because you weren't in that right place. So NLP is a beautiful way of really quickly getting to the root cause and helping you create those connections, find that peace within yourself, such that rather than feeling shame and blame and creating that isolation and that wanting to drink too much or cover those holes and fill those holes, that you can then create wonderful connection and that happiness. So this dry January, I am good. I'm very, very happy, but I have talked with people who in this isolation mode, which a lot of people kind of hole in January, that it can create some or uncover some uncomfortable feelings. And that's okay. If they are there, let's deal with it. Let's look at it. Let's dive into it such that we can become more whole. When we are more whole, we give more to the community and we give more to ourselves. And I think that's ultimately what it's all about. It's not creating for the future, so to speak. It's how can we be present here now and loving ourselves, loving our space such that we're dynamic, we're in the present moment, and then the world is awesome. That is where the sweet spot is, and that's what I strive for doing every day when I'm making my coffee, when I'm feeding my chickens, when I'm painting, when I'm doing this work with you guys, when I'm clearing homes, all of it. It's when I'm out of balance, when I'm feeling something sneak up from the past. Okay, look at myself. What do I still have to work on? Move in there, don't resist it, meet it with a smile and go, let's do it now, because if we don't do it now, we're just going to kick it forward and it's going to still be there. But you guys, you deserve to have your happiness. You deserve absolutely everything. And if you don't like your present moment, you don't like what you have around you, who you have around you, or that you don't have anyone around you at all, I can help you. And I would love for you to call me. We'll have a consult and I can help you move through it, because it's a lot easier than you think. You just don't know what you're telling yourself.